everyone! Today we are talking about all the books of 2016. 2016 was a really good reading year for me. I reached my Goodreads goal of 30 books, even though I didn't really finish one of the books, but you know, I only had 50 pages to go, so we're gonna count it. Anyways, so this year has been a really good reading year. A lot of the books I read I actually liked. Normally, when I read books in a year, there's always those few books that you just can't read, you gotta put down, never come back to. There was probably only 2 of those books. The rest of the books I actually all enjoyed. Just like, I'm so proud of myself. I finally reached my goal. 30 books have been my goal for a while, and I finally reached it. This year I'm gonna hope for 40 books. Let's challenge these-self. So let's get started. These books are in no particular order except for the last one. That last one I would say is my #1 favorite book I read of this year, but these other books, 10 to 2, they're all in no particular order. Let's get started. First up, we have the spin on this classic tale. It's in the perspective of someone you least expect it to be taken from, and that is Tiger Lily by Jo D. Lynn Anderson. I love this. This book was taken from Tinkerbell's perspective, which really added it to it because you can see Peter's life and you can see Tiger Lily's life, not just Tiger Lily. This book I highly recommend to anyone. It's about the story of Tiger Lily, and I really like this concept of Neverland, of you stop growing up when the biggest thing that happens to your life happens. And I really like this concept because the story is about Tiger Lily and Peter and how they liked each other. I don't want to spoil too much of it. It's such a good story. I highly recommend it. You can probably relate to this. I think anyone can relate to this type of story. Highly recommend it. I mean, I think I cried like 3 times in this book. It was so good. Next we have, and I have a book talk for this book that I will link over here. And this book, I really enjoyed it. It was actually just like on a whim. I just bought it because normally I don't buy books at Barnes & Nobles I see and just like. I just kind of bought this in hopes to like it, and I loved it. Honestly, there were times when I was at my job and I just wanted to curl up in a ball and just cry my eyes out on this book. And that book is Burning Glass by Catherine Purdy. I'm sorry about that. This story is called Burning Glass, and it's about this one girl. She has the power to feel emotions, called Arceus, and she can feel emotions like kind of like how empathy works, but it feels like she's like first-hand emotions. And she ends up working for the Emperor. Her job is to make sure the Emperor is not in any harm. But when she gets to the palace, she starts getting mixed up with all these rebels, and just the story is so good because then there's this prince and he's great. Just go read this book. I highly recommend it, and the cover is beautiful. I gave this story 4.5 out of 5 stars. Just go read it. Next I saw this on the Epic Reads YouTube page, and when I saw it, I just had to get it the minute I heard of it, and that is Ruin by Amy Tintera. And this book I also enjoyed. I gave it a 5 out of 5. No, 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's hard for me to give 5 stars. 4.5 out of 5 stars, and basically it's about this one girl. She has these powers, but see, the problem is the king of Lyra tries to get rid of her people because she's different. Well, girl M, she goes undercover as this princess that the prince was supposed to marry, and just the whole story takes up there. I recommend this to you because you pick it up and you will not put this down. Next, this is probably no shocker. I think this is on a lot of people's favorites of 2016, and it is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I love this book. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I think I did give this one 5 out of 5 stars. I could not stop reading it. I'm not going to really go into what it's about because probably most of you know what it's about, but it's so good. I highly recommend it. Maybe the only criticism I get is very predictable, but I still loved it. Go read it. Next we have this one book, and it's my first book by this author, and I'm so glad I started to read this author because it's so good. I literally read this in 6 hours from 10 o'clock at night to 6:30 in the morning. So this book was really good, and I really related to it a lot. And this book is Slaying by Colleen Hoover. Love this book. It's about this one girl. She moves to this new town. She meets this neighbor called Will, who's like a few years older than her in college. But things start to get a little tricky from there in certain circumstances. I highly recommend it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 star only because I felt like in this book, even though it was really good, just one tragedy after another just kept happening. Like, it started to get to the point where it's like, okay, wow, another tragedy. Like, you start not feeling bad for the character because you expect something bad to happen to the characters. Like, This one thing after another. Like, come on, people's lives are not this tragic. Like, there should be a nice gap between these tragedies. But otherwise, I give it 4 out of 5 stars. It's so good. And my favorite band is in this. I actually heard of the Avett Brothers for a while. I love listening to their music. And so them was in this book. And each chapter started off with one of their songs. Just made the book so much better. And I still have not gone to a slam poetry, like I said. That's what 2017 for. Let's go. This next book, one thing that makes me so happy inside is the fact that young adult fiction is starting to come into the historical fiction. I, as a new reader at 13, 14, 12 years old, loved historical fiction. The only problem is there was no books on historical fiction. There was like maybe 2 authors that wrote historical fiction, and that was it. And I love historical fiction. So the fact that historical fiction is coming into young adult literature just makes me so happy. And this book I'm talking about is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. Now this book is a sore spot in my life because where I go to school, there's a bookstore like 5 minutes away, and I had this book since it came out. And one day in April, I was looking on this bookstore's website at their events, and Ruta Sepetys came to this book thing a week before I looked at its website. So I looked at it in April. She came the last day of March. That is what happened. And I could have met her, and I didn't. But I love this book. It's historical fiction, take place in World War II. It's just, go read it. It's so good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This book, I really want to just like go back into the past and just punch my past self, because I remember when this book came out and I was like, contemporary. No, looks good, but you know how sometimes you get those books and like you get them and then you think they're about one thing, and then they're not, and then you just not enjoy it at all. This is what I thought it was, especially when I read the inside of the cover. I was like, yeah, this isn't what I'm looking for. But that is To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. And oh my gosh, I wish I read this sooner, because I really related to the character of Lara Jean. Just the way she felt about love and just the fear of it. Just that's how I was at that age, and so I really related to her character, and I just really liked that, like the whole letter concept. So I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars as well. This book has been sitting on my shelf for almost a year, and it's one of those books where you're like, why did I not pick this up sooner? It's so good, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Anyways, I really like this. It's about this like street gang and stuff, and they go and try to pull off the most impossible kidnapping there has ever been, and just it's so good. I literally could not put it down. Normally I don't like books that are taken from different perspectives, just because one, you get so many perspectives, you start losing story plots because each one has a different storyline, and two, there's always those characters that you really don't like, and so the fact you have to read 30 pages and their perspective does not make the book that fun. But I think there's only maybe like 2 characters that I was like, not my favorite. But I mean, it wasn't like it was really bad, I couldn't read it. But I love this book. I gave this, I think, a 4 out of 5 stars. Maybe it was 5 out of 5. It was either 4 or 5. I'll just go with 5 out of 5 stars to make it sound like this book was really good. It was. Go read it. When I first started, I was really confused. I was like, who is this Juice dude? What's going on? And then it kind of started making sense. So go read this. It's so good, especially the ending. My roommate looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why are you so upset right now? Just go read it. Next, I'm always a year behind on these books. I don't know why. I think of the fact that they're so long. I'm not the type of person who could just read one book and then go to the next book. I'm the person who I'll read the first book and you have to probably wait like 6 months for me to pick up the second book. Sometimes we wait a whole year. I don't know, I'm just like that. And so this book, everybody's already read this last year, but I'm just reading it now, and that's Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. And I really like this book. I don't know if I want to say it's my favorite of all the Throne of Glass series, because I really like the ending of Heir of Fire, but I was bored with Heir of Fire up to the ending, and then I really liked it. This book, I was interested the whole time, but I guess I could say like it was till the end where it was like, oh my gosh, the feels. Obviously I couldn't stop reading it, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily like this is the best book I've ever read, but it's still really good. And just I gave this, I think, a 4 out of 5 stars. This series was my #1 pick for the year, so I'm going to count it all as one book because the last book of the series came out this year. But to prepare for the last book, I read from the very first book all the way to the last book. So basically, I've read every single book twice, except for the one that just came out. And normally, I can't do that with series. Normally, once I read a book, I cannot reread it. Like Clockwork Prince, one of my favorite books of all times. I try to reread it, and I get halfway through it. It's not so much I get bored in it, then I just find other things to read. With this, the fact I was able to read this whole series again, from start to finish, and didn't even skim any of it or just like skip a book is amazing and just shows how much I like the series. And that is the Selection series by Kiera Cass. I love the series. I reread this series. I really liked it because one thing I just find so amazing about books and rereading. So I was 16 when I read these books, and they meant one thing to me then. Now reading them again when I was 18, just they meant something different to me this time. I felt more for them. When I not only picked up on details I missed, but just they meant something different to me than they did when I was 16. And just I find that amazing how different points in your life books can mean different things. And then most importantly, Edelyn's story. Just this really stuck with me. I remember I read The Heir last summer. I was going into college, didn't like it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and then I come back and I read it for The Crown, and just I loved it because I related to her. I relate her, and it's just so funny how just a year made me like a book I did not like the first time I read it, because I felt this more deeper connection with the character, because I felt like I was the character at one point. And it made me really recognize things about myself, and just, I love the series. I was not happy with the ending. I felt like it just ended, and I wanted to go on and on and on. Just, I love the series, and honestly, I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I actually went back. Most of these books were 4 out of 5 stars. I went back and gave them all 5 out of 5 stars. Even The Heir, who I originally gave a 3 out of 5 stars, now is a 5 out of 5 stars. Just the story has impacted me so much. I just love it so much, and I just want to meet Kiera Cass and just tell her how amazing she is. Anyway, thank you for watching my 2016 favorite books. Let me know in the comments what your favorite books were. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to this channel for more bookish discussions. Thank you for watching. Bye!